I would like to give a little akdama. The machlekes from Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon, the davar she'em miskaven is asur, or davar she'em miskaven is mutach. Now, why Rabbi Yehuda holds that davar she'en miskaven is asur? The lashon HaTosfos in Yuma, the Aflamadalat Amid Beis is asur she'en miskaven ki miskaven. Ein miskaven has a din like miskaven. And it needs a bir, it needs a pshat. What's the taich? Asur she'en miskaven ki miskaven. Also, Tosfos in Yuma, the Aflamadalat Amid Beis says a chiddush nifla, the same deri, that machlekes from davar she'en miskaven is a machlekes in kol ha-Torah kula, and it's a machlekes regarding to Shabbos. Like we mentioned, the Reb Chaim says that it's two different machlekes, one legabi Shabbos and one legabi kol ha-Torah kula. The machlekes legabi Shabbos is a machlekes if it's asur midrabanan. Reb Shimon holds that it's mutar midrabanan, and Rabbi Yehuda holds that it's asur midrabanan. But everybody agrees that min ha-Torah there is no isur on Shabbos. The machlekes in davar she'en miskaven and kol ha-Torah kula is the machlekes if it's asur midaraisa or it's mutar midaraisa. The machlekes for Shabbos is what the Gemara mentions in the Bavem Adlikim, goyrer adam mita kisei v'safsi. A person is dragging a chair, a heavy chair, kisei v'safsel on the ground, and it makes it, perhaps by dragging it, it could make a hole in the ground. And he's not miskaven, it should make a chitz. The machlekes Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon, if it's mutar, it's asur. Over there, Tosfos says the machlekes is if it's asur mit rabbanon. With the raisa, it's definitely mutar. And the reason for that is because meleches machshavas asur Torah. A malacha has to be a malacha with a machshava. A malacha has to be a malacha with a kavanah. If there's no malacha with kavanah, you're not chayiv. The machlekes in kol ha-Torah kula that the Gemara mentions in Shabbos, like tzitzas beheres, the din is if you have a beheres, so you're not allowed to cut off the beheres. There's a laugh in cutting off a beheres. He's shomer b'nega tzaras. A person is not allowed to cut off a beheres. If he has a nega, he's supposed to leave it there and wait that the nega should become toyer, but he's not allowed to cut it off. What happens if the beheres is on the mokim hamila, and there's a mitzvah to make mila, and he has a beheres on the mokim hamila? Is it permissible to go ahead and being mal, although you're going to be kaitzitz the beheres? Now, them efran da'alocha from osi eser v'dochi loisasa. The Gemara says, but he could be ein miskaven. He's not miskaven lokal tzabeheres. He doesn't want to become toyer. The Rashba explains the Gemara that the isa from tzitzas habeheres is not a isa just from being kaitzitz habeheres, from cutting off habeheres. The isa is to make yourself toyer. The Torah wants that the Torah and the tumah should come aydei hakoyin, and if you're going to want to become toyer by yourself, by cutting off the beheres, that's what the Torah asks. So tzitzas habeheres is k'tzitza kedei l'tayr. If he doesn't have a machshava kedei l'tayr, such a tzitzas habeheres is not asur. Like the Gemara, when somebody else is making the milah and the av is not making the milah, he doesn't care if the beheres is off the child or it's not off the child, because it's not his son. He just wants to make the milah. So when he's going to do it, it's going to be ein miskaven. When the father is going to do it, he's going to be miskaven. The father is going to have to come on to esed dechaleisasa. Somebody else is going to do it. You don't have to come on to esed dechaleisasa. Frag the Gemara, let somebody else have to do it, because the klal is kol mokim, that you could do both, and it's efshel l'kaim shneim. You don't say esed dechaleisasa, and here it's efshel l'kaim shneim. About kol panim, what do we see in the Gemara? There's a isa from davar mischaven and davar she'en mischaven. The machlekes from davar mischaven and davar she'en mischaven is not only related to Shabbos, it's related to kol ha-Torah kula. And dort in Tosfos it's a machlekes and a isa daraisa. It's not a machlekes and a isa darabban. Now the Gemara says moide Reb Shimon b'psig reisha v'lo. That means when the one does an act, and what he does, although he has no intention, He has no kavanah to do the other act. He's only doing the act which is mutter. He has no intention to do the act of Isa. He's being geirer. He's dragging amita kisei v'safsel, and he's doing it because he wants to bring it from one place to another place. He has no intention of digging a hole in the ground, but it's a heavy chair, and it's definitely going to dig a hole in the ground. State in the Gemara, das is psigreisha. Even though Reb Shimon holds that davar shein miskaven is mutter, moide Reb Shimon b'psigreisha v'layamos, over there davar shein miskaven is us. Doch the Fran Halacha von davar shein miskaven is us. Moide Reb Shimon b'psigreisha v'layamos. The question is, why is davar shein miskaven mutter according to Reb Shimon? And if davar shein miskaven is mutter according to Reb Shimon, what's the hezbollah that with psigreisha davar shein miskaven is also I'll leave it to Reb Shimon also? So there's two biurim how to understand this. You have to understand what's the heta from Reb Shimon from davar shein miskaven. Why is davar shein miskaven mutter? And there's two ways how to learn. You could learn that every malacha the Torah asked you, the Isser is only with an intent. There has to be an intent to do the malacha. If there's no intent to do the malacha, it's not asa. The Torah didn't asa a maisa by itself. The Torah only asa a maisa b'kavanah, a maisa with an intent. If there's no intent, the Torah didn't asa this maisa. And therefore, you have to say that psigreisha is considered b'kavanah. Because psigreisha is considered ki'ilu who's mechavan. How do you touch that up? It's considered ki'ilu hu mechavan. There's a rosh in Kol Kisvei, in Simeches, and it's a teisvis in Yume, which is a long teisvis. It starts off Lamed Dalet Amud Beis, and it's almost a blot. It goes almost to the end of Lamed Hey Amud Aleph. And teisvis says that the yesod Vayichayev is Keva Shehu Nene Anan Sadi Shehu Miskaven Liyapis. Teisvis says it's Anan Sadi. Since a person is benefiting from it, he definitely has kavanah that he wants it to happen. So anan sadi shemiskaven liyapis. So the isa from davar shein miskaven is because a malacha is only also with kavanah. Why is davar, which is psigreisha, why is that also? The pshat is because psigreisha is considered mechaven. Why is psigreisha considered mechaven? Because anan sadi shehu miskaven. However, there's another pshat, and the pshat is that davar shein miskaven is not misyaches to the maisa. When someone does two acts, he does two things, and his intent is for one. Is it considered that he did both? He just had intent for one. For the other one, he didn't have intent. He did one of the maisas, and he did really both of the maisas. He did both of the maisas. But for one, he had kavanah, one he had no kavanah. One was intentional, one was unintentional. Maybe it's considered the one that's unintentional is not considered his maisa. It's not considered his act. It's considered like it happened by itself. Something that he did not do, but it happened by itself. Bromberg said that was the Lashon HaGemara in Ksubis Daf Hey Amud Beis. The Gemara says, Anos atzmayu v'dam memela kosi. The Lashon HaGemara is memela kosi. L'dam utzarech u'pesach memela kosi. We're talking about two things. How do we call the thing that he didn't have a kavanah for? The thing that it wasn't intentional. That's considered memela kosi. It's not considered his act. At kedei kach, if it's not considered his act, so you could say it's not misyaches to the gavra, meaning it's not considered the act of the person. It's not his amaisa. And today he should be chayiv, it has to be his maisa. And Reb Shimon says in Shara Yesha, it's not even considered a maisa regarding the malacha. There was no malacha done in Shabbos. Something happened by itself. If no one did it, there was no malacha done. It has to be a maisa to be considered a malacha done. There was no maisa done. So therefore, the Melech Chil Shabbos was only when it was done through a Maisa. There was no Maisa done. It happened by itself. The Melekasi. It happened by itself. There was no Maisa. If that's the pshat, what's psigreisha? The taich of psigresha means that it is considered his maisa. Since you can't separate the both maisas, and when you do one, you have to do the other one also, so you can't look at it like there's two separate acts, and they both happened in this act that he's doing. He's dragging a mite kise v'sapsel. One thing is he's moving it from one side to the other side, and the other act is that he's digging a hole, and it's two separate acts. And in one act he's chayiv, and in one act he didn't do. But if it can't be one without the other, meaning to say that when you drag it and it's such a heavy object, then it's definitely going to make a hole in the ground. It's definitely going to dig a hole. So you can't say that he did not do that part. Since it has to go and it's inseparable, you can't separate one from another, then we say that he did both. Since he did both, therefore he's chayiv. That's the pshat, how you learn why davar she'ein miskaven is mutter and psigresha is also. Now, what's the nafkamina? By us, there's also a nafkamina. The Aruch says that a davar she'ein miskaven and the psigresha, it's still, when it's loy nichalei, it's mutter. When do you say psigresha is also? Only when it's nichalei. When it's psigresha and it's loy nichalei, then it's not also. If it doesn't care about it and doesn't want it, then it's also. I mean, then if it doesn't care about it, doesn't want it, then it's mutter. The Torah only asks that psigresha when he's nichalei. Psigresha, loy nichalei, is mutter. So the Aruch added another component, what you need to be over the Isa Shabbos. To be over the Isa Shabbos, to be over the Isa Malacha, a lav dafke Shabbos, to be over any Isa. A Maisa needs kavana, and chutz kavana, it needs ratzon also, nichalei. He wants to do it. If there's no ratzon and there's no nichalei, he's taken at chayiv. You need both. You need kavana and you need ratzon. Now, when a person is eine miskaven, felt kavana and so felt ratzon. Both of them are lacking. There's no kavana, there's no ratzon. Psigresha only makes that it should be that it has kavana. Since you can do one without the other, it's nechshav ki kavana, meaning if the yesod of loy miskaven means, because the mais is not misyaches achov, then you say that when he did it, and you can't separate one from another, so he did both maises, and therefore he's chayiv. Shain came. If you say that the pshat is that's a felt you need ratzon also, so it's another din that you need in the avera. You have to have ratzon in the avera also. Kavana means kavana beratzon, and kavana without ratzon is not over. So why does psigresha make that it should be considered ratzon? Psigresha shouldn't make that it should be considered ratzon. So how does psigresha really help? So if you learn that the vote is that psigresha is nechshav kilu miskaven, then we understand. When is psigresha nechshav kilu miskaven something that he really wants? So we said the Rishonim before, Pesach and the Rosh, it's a non-sadi that he wants. If a person is benefiting for it and it's happening and he knows that it's happening, the svar is to say that he really wants it. That's what he wants. So since that's what he wants, the mele he's chayiv. However, if he's loy nichalei and he doesn't want it, he's a loy nichalei, he's not interested in it, so there's no anan sadi that he wants it. The mele, there is no kavana. And the mele, you're not chayiv, because without kavana, you can't be chayiv. So if you say you need psigresha the nichalei, so you have to say that not because Eine Miskaven is lacking in the Maisa, it's like Memela Kasi. You have to say there's a new din that you need Kavana also, and you need Kavana and Ratzon, and Psigresha is Nechshav Kavana and Ratzon, and when is a Nechshav Kavana and Ratzon? Only in the case where it's a non-sadi that is Nichalei, and if he's Loi Nichalei, so then it's not Nechshav Ratzon, and without Ratzon you're not Chayiv. That's why Tesis in Yuma says that the yesod is because Eine Miskaven is chayiv because you need a kavana also. The pshat is you need kavana is because otherwise you can't say that psigresha le'nichalei is pater amut. Can't say psigresha le'nichalei is pater. Can't be because the ma'aser psigresha is considered you did the ma'aser, but for ratzon it should never help. Even nichalei shouldn't be chayiv also. You must want to say nichalei le'nichalei. He's not doing it for that kavana. The pshat could be, like we said, because of an ansari. Okay, now let's get into the yesod of Reb Chaim. Reb Chaim says a yesod. Those of us der Orl sagt, as Psigresha Leinichale is mutter, sagt Reb Chaim, that's only in Psigresha from Kol HaTorah Kula. In Psigresha from Shabbos, there's no nafkemina from Psigresha de Nichale and Psigresha de Leinichale. Reb Chaim says the Yisod Advarim is because the Einay Miskaven from Shabbos and the Einay Miskaven from Kol HaTorah Kula is a different din from Einay Miskaven. It's not in the Lomdus it's different. The actual, what's called Miskaven, how do you touch up? What's the literal translation of Miskaven is Choluk from Shabbos and Kol HaTorah Kula. The Einay Miskaven in Shabbos is Toli, the Einay Miskaven. The bedin davar she'ein miskaven, ha'ika toli b'kavanose v'ratzaynei. Va'afilu im yedeya bevadei she'ya'osa hadavar, v'oisas hadavar b'das. He knows what he's doing. And he knows by dragging, the mita kisei v'safsel is definitely going to dig a hole. Mikol makem toli b'kavanose. This is something which is up to his kavanah, his intent. Im miskaven lazeh im loy. So you have to have kavanah. So it's all totally in his intent. So therefore, the Yisod is, even though he knows he's doing the Maisa, it's not totally. It doesn't depend if he knows what he's doing or not. He has to have a kavanah. He has to have an intent that I want to do this, not knowing what I'm doing. Shain came with din malachas machshavas, which is a Shabbos dikadin. Ein yisaydinoi toli klal bekavanah v'rotz. This is not something which is totally b'kavana and rotzen. Kiyim v'das sho'eses hamalach. This is, he has to know that he's doing the malacha. Malachas machshavas means a person has to know what he's doing. What's he doing? He has to know he's doing the malacha. She'yases hamalacha v'das u'machshava. The person should do the malacha knowingly he's doing the malacha and having a machshava that he's doing the malacha. So Chaim cites just like Masasik is potter, because Melechas Machshavas Asra Torah. And why is Masasik potter? Because he doesn't know that he's doing the Melacha. Hoysa, the Gemara says in Baba Kama, Hoysa Evan Menachas Loi B'Chaikoi. Somebody had a stone which is lying on his lap, and he got up, and he had no intention that the stone should fall down, and the stone fell down, and so we say regarding Shabbos, it's not considered a Melacha. Although the stone fell down and went out from one domain, from one rishus to another domain, and went to another rishus, you still say that you're potter. Why? Because malachas machshavas osra teira. Why is that? Because it wasn't done b'daita. Machshava means, malacha means when it's done b'machshavas. It's done b'daita. He has to know he's doing a malacha. If he doesn't know he's doing a malacha, he's not chayiv. Reb Chaim says, likewise, Einay miskaven. What's Einay miskaven? He doesn't know that he's doing the malacha. If he's Einay miskaven for the malacha, and the malacha doesn't have to happen, he doesn't know that he's doing the malacha. When he's goyra mita kisa v'safsel, he doesn't know that he's making a hole, because it doesn't have to make a hole. So even though he chaps that it's making a hole, but it was made already. B'shas ma'aseh, when he was slapping it, when he was pulling it, when he was dragging it, it didn't have to make a hole. And as it continues dragging, how do you know it's going to keep on making a hole? Therefore, we don't know that he's making a hole. So the chesaron is it's not nasa b'das. So ein miskaven from Kol HaTorah Kula. What's the pshat ein miskaven? The taich from ein miskaven from Kol HaTorah Kula means that he has no intent to do the ma'aseh. He has no intent to go ahead and to do this ma'aseh. Davar she'ein miskaven from Shabbos doesn't mean he has no intent, he has no kavanah, then it means that he doesn't know that he's doing the ma'aseh. Pasha doesn't know that he's doing the ma'aseh. And afkamina is, do you need rotzen? Is kavanah enough, or you need rotzen? So Reb Chaim, this is the nafkamina. If you say that the ptur is because he doesn't know he's doing the ma'aseh, so although it's not nasa b'tzaynai, who cares? But he knows he's doing the ma'aseh. So therefore, it's considered malachas machshavas. And because of the davar she'ein miskaven from Shabbos, it should be chayiv. Masha'en came, when you're dealing with the davar she'ein miskaven, which is from Kol HaTorah Kula, over there it's not that he has to know what he's doing. Rather, he has to have an intent to do what he's doing. It has to be kavanah, intentional. I'm doing it for this purpose. So you need a kavanah. Kavanah means a kavanah berotzen. A kavanah without rotzen is not considered a kavanah. It means I want this to happen. I want to do it, and I want it to happen. I'm doing it because I want this to happen. So you need rotzen. So where does the Aruch say that davar she'ein miskaven is you need rotzen? And even if it's psigreisha, if there's no rotzen, you're not chayiv. That's only in the psigreisha from kol haTorah kula. In the psigreisha from Shabbos, the Aruch didn't say his name. Now, according to Rabbi Yehuda, the Rabbi Yehuda says that davar she'ein miskaven and kol haTorah kula is chayiv. Only by Shabbos, Rabbi Yehuda holds that davar she'ein miskaven is potter. It's only awesome at the Rabbanim, because Melechas Machshavas Asra Torah. If you'll have something that's going to be psigreisha, but Hagam is going to be psigreisha, it's still not going to be rotzen. There's no rotzen that he wants it. Would he be chayiv there? According to Rabbi Yehuda, he's going to be chayiv. But since we say that the taich from davar she'ein miskaven according to Rabbi Yehuda means that you need Melechas Machshavas, it has to be done b'das. He has to know that he's doing it. So if it's psigreisha, he knows that he's doing it. And if he knows that he's doing it, he's avad chayiv. Shain kin le Reb Shimon, although legabi Shabbos felt nicht kein Melechas Machshavas, but the din from a miskaven from kol haTorah kula, just like it has a ptur from a miskaven regarding Shabbos, it has a ptur from a miskaven regarding kol haTorah kula also. The din from a miskaven, but patas be kol haTorah kula is not only kol haTorah kula, it patas Shabbos also. The din is that a miskaven is not nechshav his maisa. It's nechshav ignasa meileo, because you need kavanah, or you're saying that the halacha is that you need kavanah. Without kavanah, the Torah says that Isha is not asa. Shabbos also goes in that gather. Every Isha needs kavanah. Without kavanah, it's not considered that he did a maisa. And therefore, if that's the pshat, it's no Reb Shimon hagam b'tzad the Hilchos Shabbos from Melechas Machshavas. When it's psigreisha and it's loy nichalei, it's considered, it still could be part of an aim miskaven from kol haTorah. So it's shaykh aptur from aim miskaven from kol haTorah. Kommt das, was Reb Chaim mit der Mechadish given is that the ptur from aim miskaven by loy nichalei is only a ptur in kol haTorah. In Shabbos there is no such ptur, and although by Shabbos there is no such ptur, Shabbos is going to have the ptur from kol haTorah kula. And now this depends on the machlekes from Rabbi Yehuda and Reb Shimon. Rabbi Yehuda that holds that davar she'ein miskaven b'kol haTorah kula is awesome in that Torah. There's no heter from davar she'ein miskaven. The Shabbos also doesn't have that heter from ein miskaven. Although Rabbi Yehuda is moided that by Shabbos there's a din from davar she'ein miskaven, which is potter. And that yesod from ein miskaven means that it's felt Melechas Machshavas, but in the case that it is psigreisha, although it's loy nichalei, but it is psigreisha, so the melacha is done b'das, and once the melacha is done b'das, therefore it's chayiv. Shain came, aliba the Reb Shimon, although mitzad Hilchos Melechas Machshavas, since he knows he's doing the ma'aser, there can be a ptur. There can be a ptur from melacha davar she'ein miskaven from kol haTorah kula. Ken zayin amadin melacha from kol haTorah kula. That's one nekuda which is mavur and Reb Chaim. And the smach to Reb Chaim is really, you should know the lashon Gemara in Shabbos daf ayin hey by yatzot chalozain that the Gemara calls davar she'ein miskaven misasik. That's the Gemara phrases the taich from ein miskaven v'ha misasik. Rashi learns it means davar she'ein miskaven. Why do we call it misasik? Because the ptur from Shabbos is the ptur that is misasik. He doesn't know he's doing the malacha. And every davar she'ein miskaven is potter because he doesn't know he's doing the malacha. So the Gemara is referring to the davar she'ein miskaven, which is a din from ein miskaven from Shabbos. This is ein nekuda for Reb Chaim. Now we'll get to another nekuda, which could be a gewaldige nafkamina. And just to mention Rabbi Kivega's Akasha. Tosfos asks Akasha on the Aruch. That the Aruch says that Psigreisha Leinichale, look, the Aruch is mutter. The Gemara says somebody that's mapis musa. That means he has a pimple which has pus inside. And he wants to take a needle and make a hole so the pus should come out. That's mapis musa b'Shabbos. He's considered a davar shein miskaven. He's not interested in making a pair. He's only interested l'hoitzi mimeno halecha. It doesn't need that it should be an opening. It just needs the pus to come out. The pus can't come out unless it's open. But it doesn't really need the opening. So the Gemara says that's considered davar shein miskaven. And the davar shein miskaven, so the Gemara mishum tzaira, even though davar shein miskaven is also, mishum tzaira they were matter. It means that the Raisa davar shein miskaven is mutter, but the Rabbanan is also, and mishum tzaira they went ahead and they were matter. Like Tosfos, what do you have to come on to heta mishum tzaira? What do you need? Because he's mitzayir for the pus, for the pimple, and therefore they were matter to him. It's mutter because it's lein nichale. He's not nichale on the hole that he's making. He doesn't need that hole. And if he doesn't need that hole, that's considered a davar shein miskaven. And Mele, even though it's psigreisha lein nichale, psigreisha lein nichale hal da'ach is potter a mutter. So Mele is mutter because it's psigreisha lein nichale. That's like Tosfos. Fragt Rabbi Kivega, a very stark kasha. Why is mapis musa considered davar shein miskaven? It's not daimah to all the other cases. Every time he's doing two different acts. He's miskaven for one, not miskaven for the other one. He's dragging mita kisa v'safsel, and he's miskaven to drag the mita kisa v'safsel, but he's not miskaven to make the whole. So we're talking about two different things. Dort nefaranda din von eine miskaven. Dort is like the Aruch, if it's psigreisha is chayiv, and if he's lein nichale is patach. But mapis musa, he wants to make the whole. He wants the pus to come out. So his intent is to make a hole that the pus should come out. Why is that considered eine mechaven? Havos rufzah das an eine mechaven? That's eine mechaven? That's mechaven. And if it's mechaven, she's zicher b'yosef. So why is that considered eine mechaven? Be'emes, in Tosfos and Human, after Lamedalet Amid Beis, is mevur that this is considered mechaven. Tosfos translates very clearly that this is considered mechaven. Mamish like Rabbi Kivega. Mapis Musa, he says, you make a hole. Tosfos calls him that he's a mechaven. Avad is a mechaven. He wants to make the hole. He's considered a mechaven. That was Tosfos gives a mushal. What's considered mechaven? Mechaven? It's like Tosfos can go in Mapis Musa. Mapis Musa is considered he's a mechaven. However, the end of the Tosfos, the last few lines from the Tosfos asks a kasha on the Aruch, and Tosfos says, "The einay mischaven lebinyan haPesach." Mapis Musa is einay mischaven lebinyan haPesach. So actually, there's a stira in Tosfos and Rabbi Kivega's kasha. Is this considered einay mischaven, or this is considered mechaven? Is it mutter? Is it only osur? And you have to come with some tzayra de gufa because it's einay miskaven and it's psigreisha. And therefore, you have to come at the heta from tzayra de gufa, or it's mechaven mamish. That's why you need a heta from tzayra de gufa. It's a real kavanah. Tosfos calls it in the beginning of the Tosfos calls it einay mechaven, and the end of the Tosfos calls it mechaven. How can you reconcile the steer of the Tosfos? So here, Reb Shlomo comes in. Reb Shlomo says the yesod. Says, why is it considered einay miskaven? What's that going to tell us now? Kivega's kasha. Havos bleibt das einay miskaven? He's miskaven to make a hole. Why is this considered einay miskaven? The Rishonim lashon later on in the Shabbos is because he's only miskaven to make a nekev and he's not miskaven to make a pesach. What does that lashon mean? Is einay miskaven to make a nekev? He's only miskaven to make a nekev. He's not miskaven to make a pesach. Pesach means adavar ha'osei lahoitzi elahachnis. That means he wants the pus to come out and he wants the air to come in. Every Pesach is osei lahachnis lahoitzi. That's the touch of a Pesach. Something that's not osei lahachnis lahoitzi, hastes come Pesach. A Pesach is no when he's osir lahachnas l'chaytzi. Now, the shaila is like this. When someone is mapas musa and he wants to make a hole, is he mechaven lahachnas l'chaytzi? Avadi is mechaven l'chaytzi halecha. Avadi wants to pass out. Is he mechaven that the air should come in? Is it l'chaytzi lahachnas? He's not mechaven about the air to come in. He doesn't care if the air comes in or not. He only cares that the lecha should go out. So his kavanah is only the lecha should go out. But there's no kavanah in the etzem zach that he's mechaven that he should make a hole lahachnas l'chaytzi. The question is, do you need a hole for lahachnas l'chaytzi? Do you have to make a nekeh for lahachnas l'chaytzi? Do you have to have a kavanah for that? In the halacha that you need, osir is only osir b'kavanah. On kavanah is not osir. What's the pshat that on kavanah is not osir? The pshat is that on kavanah is not osir. When I'm mechaven to make the hole, the ma'aseh ha-pesach I'm mechaven to. But the melacha, which is that there is a cheftzah from Pesach, that means there's something which is a Pesach, which is osir lahachnas l'chaytzi. I don't need the Pesach from lahachnas l'chaytzi. I'm creating a Pesach from lahachnas l'chaytzi. Do I need that Pesach from lahachnas l'chaytzi? I don't need that Pesach from lahachnas l'chaytzi. Is that considered a melacha? Is that considered a kavanah, or it's not considered a kavanah? So Reb Shlomo, that's totally if the din a miskaven, if it's in the a miskaven from Shabbos, or it's the a miskaven from Kol HaTerekul. In the a miskaven from Shabbos, as long as I want to make a ma'aseh Pesach, I'm interested, bedas. I know what I'm doing. I'm opening up this musa. I'm making a hole in this musa. I want to open this musa. Do I have to think that I want it to be a malacha and should be a chaftzah b'Pesach? I have to know what I'm doing. What I'm doing should be bedas. What I'm doing shouldn't be misasik. Here it's not misasik. I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm opening up the musa. However, if you're clearing l'gabi kol ha-terekula, in kol ha-terekula for an halacha, you have to have an intent. So I have to have an intent and a kavanah that it should be a malacha. The malacha is that it's a chaftzah from a Pesach. If it'll be a nekef and it won't be a Pesach, it won't be a malacha. The malacha is the chaftzah from the Pesach. So I need the kavanah that there should be a Pesach. If there's no Pesach, there's no kavanah. If there's no kavanah lahachnis l'hoitzi, there's no kavanah to be a Pesach. And if there's no kavanah to be a Pesach, it's not considered a kavanah for Isser, and it's not us. When we're done the din Shabbos, so we're saying this is avada nechshav kavanah, because I want to make a ma'aseh Pesach. I know what I'm doing. I know exactly I'm making a hole now. Do I need the hole? Do I want the hole? I don't need the hole. I just need it to go out. I need a nekef. I need a thing that the lecha should go out. I need a way the lecha can get out. But I don't need the Pesach. But do I know that I'm doing a Pesach? Avada, I know I'm doing a Pesach. Therefore, when I get a Hilchos Shabbos, that's considered that it's mechaven. And for Hilchos Shabbos, it'll be chayiv. But according to Reb Shimon, although on Hilchos Shabbos it can be chayiv, but from deswegen, when we're done the tzad Kol HaTerekula, and there's the p'tur for Neina Meskaven and Kol HaTerekula, and here there's also a p'tur for Neina Meskaven for Kol HaTerekula. And since there's a p'tur for Meskaven for Neina Kol HaTerekula, for Neina Meskaven, he's an Neina Meskaven here. Because in Kol HaTerekula you need kavanah. You need kavanah for the cheftzah shel Isser, and the cheftzah shel Isser is Pesach. And I have no kavanah to make a Pesach. I have only a kavanah to make a nekef. Therefore, Tesis in the beginning of Tesis, which Tesis is talking about the Rabbi Yehuda. The Rabbi Yehuda holds that davar shein miskaven is also Kol HaTerekula. So what's the taich davar shein miskaven is also Kol HaTerekula? Because davar shein miskaven in the Torah gesagt, as any ma'aseh that you do, which in the ma'aseh, this result might come out, that's considered part of your ma'aseh. So you don't need any kavanah. You don't need any a mechuven, a kavanah to do that. As long as select in the ma'aseh, it's enough to be yosef. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, so you can only pater him because of melechas machshavos. By matas musa, when he knows that he's doing it, that's considered melechas machshavos. Since it's bedas, it's considered melechas machshavos, and therefore he's also. Shain alibe the Shimon. that Reb Shimon holds that davar she'ein miskaven is mutter in kol HaTorah kula. Although in Hilchos Shabbos, this is considered psigreisha, and it's not considered ein miskaven, and it is melechas machshavas, it still could be ein mechaven from kol HaTorah kula. Male, if he's ein mechaven from kol HaTorah kula, he's considered ein mechaven. Therefore, Tosfos at the end of the Tosfos talks according to Reb Shimon. So Tosfos says it's considered ein mechaven. Tosfos at the beginning of the Tosfos talks along to Rabbi Yehuda. So Tosfos considers the davar mechaven. The same thing is with Meken Susteln. Tosfos says in Ksubis, Davov, there was someone picked off the berries from the hodas. And we don't know, taking off the berries when it's anavav, merube me olav, the hodas is possible. When you take off the berries, so now the anavim, the leaves are more than the berries, then it's kosher. In Tosfos, that does hotzer the machlekes from Rabbi Yehuda mit Reb Shimon. Sie mir sagen, as der eine miskaven is also zum Mutter. And Tosfos says, the reason it's considered eine miskaven, because he might not need it. Maybe he might have a hodas without it. This hodas is not necessary. He might have a hodas without it. And since he might have a hodas without it, therefore we say that this is not considered a malacha. A malacha means only when you need it. When you need it to be mesaken, when you need the tikkun. A tikkun be'etzem, when the zach becomes something else, you made something, so you're going to use it or you're not going to use it, but you made a tikkun. But a hodas is really a branch. It's only a hodas shel mitzvah when you need it for shel mitzvah. If you don't need it shel mitzvah, it's not a hodas shel mitzvah. So it's a suffix. If this is going to be necessary, it's not going to be necessary. So this Tosfos says it's not considered psigreisha. The Mela, so Tosfos says you're not chayiv. And Tosfos says it's totally in the machlekes from Rabbi Yehuda and Reb Shimon. Why is that totally in the machlekes from Rabbi Yehuda and Reb Shimon? The pshat is the same thing. Regarding the Hilchos Shabbos, this is zichrik and nechshav kavanah. I want to pull off the berries. I want to be mesaken the hodas, and I want to pull off the berries. This is the emes of miskaven. It's not an ein miskaven. In kol HaTorah kula, Rabbi Yehuda doesn't hold for an ein miskaven. So this is the miskaven mamish. So avada, even lesle shaina achita is a miskaven. So this is what he wants to do. He wants to pull it off. And if he wants to pull it off, that's considered miskaven. And that's considered miskaven. If lemaisa you need it, it was necessary, and you needed it, you made a tikkun. So lemaisa, if it was necessary, you were over an isa. Shain can aliba the Reb Shimon is the ptur from ein miskaven. A psigreisha, when it's a suffix, if it's miskaven or ein miskaven, it's a ptur from ein miskaven. And if it's a ptur from ein miskaven, over there, psigreisha, which is a suffix, nichalei, suffix if it's going to use it or not going to use it, suffix if it's going to be psigreisha or it's not psigreisha, that's not considered a psigreisha. Psigreisha shaila Rabbi Kivegi, psigreisha bia halacha bringing them, that's not considered psigreisha. So if it's considered einay mechaven, not only because of psigreisha it's considered mechaven, then you say a suffix psigreisha is not a psigreisha. But if it's considered mechaven because he's actually doing it, because for Shabbos you only need a maisa that you know that you're doing, it's a maisa bedas, and here is definitely a maisa bedas. So I've had to give this a chayim. This I want to complete with a miri in Shabbos daf Kuf Gimel Amud Aleph. The Miri says, in the machlekes from Rabbi Yehuda and Reb Shimon, Oy shema bezu, hoil v'yesh li yashana achita, ein bazeh tikkun klal. Shrei ein tikkun zeh beguf hakli, el tikkun lekiyum mitzvos, v'einoi, shrei ein etzach loi. V'chein iker, ha ba'al ma'asel. Well, Rabbi Yehuda chayev, even though it's no tikkun, shrei, Hutztechu lazeh, v'Reb Lezer v'Reb Shimon savo lekavua. Said doch in the Gemara, and Rabbi Yehuda Yechai. V'atam, sheRabbi Yehuda oisa she'enei miskaven k'miskaven. V'areyu k'miskaven lahachshach. The Miri says a gewaldige chiddush in the Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda holds that enei miskaven is nechshav k'miskaven. That means anything, like we explained before, anything that a person can do with his intent is if in the Maisa, this thing is happening. If in the Maisa you're making a hodas, which could be roya for hodas, it's nechshav le'ilu. He had an intent that he's doing it for that kavanah. He's doing it for that purpose. His intention was to do it for that purpose. Oisa einay miskaven k'miskaven. That was the lashon Tosfos in Yuma. Tosfos says in Rabbi Yehuda, oisa she'ein miskaven kemiskaven. And since he's oisa she'ein miskaven kemiskaven, so over here you can't even pater him as kol HaTorah kula. Even if there would be a ptur from kol HaTorah kula, in Rabbi Yehuda there isn't. But even though there be a ptur from kol HaTorah kula, you also can't pater. Because there's a new chiddush in Rabbi Yehuda that in the Maisa, anything that's in the Maisa has the din like it was done by Kavana. Anything that the Maisa could do, it's nechshav like it was done by Kavana for that Maisa, for that intent, for that purpose. Anything that the machshavah that the Maisa could do, it's nechshav like it was done for the intent for that purpose. That's the yisod according to Rabbi Yehuda. And afkamina la'alocha is v'yad zayin b'kalkul b'chabura. The Gemara says b'chabura, Reb Shimon is also made that you don't need melechas machshavas. You don't need the davar she'ein miskaven is not also. I mean, the mesasik is not also, is also, even though mesasik is potter, and everything which is because of melechas machshavas over here yechayiv. The shaila is so you could say by davar she'ein miskaven the same thing also. Why don't you say davar she'ein miskaven is also mutter? Just like you say, I mean, davar she'ein miskaven is also. Just like you say that mesasik is chayiv, because by chabura you don't need melechas machshavas, so by chabura you don't need miskaven. If you don't need melechas machshavas, you don't need miskaven, so it should be chayiv. This kasha is like tesis and yuma daf lamed daled on the base, and it's a pell of the kasha. Ein echanami taka. Mitzat Shabbos you taka patur. Mitzat Shabbos I mean you taka be chayiv because you don't need melechas machshavas, but it's patur because kol HaTorah kula. Kol HaTorah kula is a psulei miskaven. And the miskaven for kol HaTorah kula applies to Shabbos also. So why can't that a miskaven part of it? The answer is that if there's a new halacha that also she'ein miskaven kemiskaven, that anything that's nichla on the ma'aser has a din like kavana, and if the Torah says that mekalkel bechabura is chayiv, you don't need melechas machshavas. What did the Torah say? That's not up to your machshava what you want to do. It's up to the ma'aser. Anything in the ma'aser regarding these things that you don't need melechas machshavas, Reb Shimon holds like Rabbi Yehuda. So Memele, if Reb Shimon holds, if Rabbi Yehuda in such a case would hold, that's considered mechaven, because anything is in the ma'aser could do, is nechshav kemechaven. So by these things that you don't need melechas machshavas, everything is nichla on the ma'aser. If everything is nichla on the ma'aser, so you can't pater him for kol HaTorah kula. Because the yisod of kol HaTorah kula is that you need mechaven. But if the Torah was mechadish by Shabbos, that this ma'aser is nechshav kemechaven, so he was mechaven, so it's not shech the pattern over here. Therefore, Teis is gefragt, what's the chilek for Rabbi Yehuda and Reb Shimon? Just like Reb Shimon holds that every time you need melechas machshavas, from deswegen by mesasik, by chabura you don't need melechas machshavas, the sasik by avori you don't need melechas machshavas. Let's say the same thing about davar she'ein miskaven also. Why is davar she'ein miskaven different? Teis Taka says it's Taka, there's no Taka din ein miskaven is Taka chayiv. But it's part because it's a malachish and a sichel. Okay, seid gesund, kultur, atzlach in dem Lernen. Maybe this will help. We should be able to learn b'chabura together, one together with the other, seeing each other and talking to each other. Kultur.